What's up guys, Olesu here. Welcome back to another video. In this video I will basically be doing a enchant tier list of the new enchants. So if you guys enjoyed this video, let's try to get 50 likes on this video. If you hit 50, I will do another tier list for another topic. So if you guys enjoyed this video, as usual, let me know in the comments. And yeah, so as we know, layer 2 came out with 5 new enchants, and those enchants are Nemesis, Solar, StormBreaker, Tears of Enchant, and the Curse of Unbidden. So I'll basically be ranking these enchants, analyzing them, pros and cons, PvE and PvP capabilities. And yeah, remember, this is basically off the community or what I've seen and some of my opinion, so I'm going to try to make it as least biased as possible. So with our first enchant, we have Nemesis. Now this enchant is amazing. If you guys do not know what it does, I'll put it on the screen. So basically what it does is once you tag somebody or M1 somebody, it'll leave an eye on them, and once you click R within a certain amount of studs, it will TP to them with your critical. So this is actually amazing for PvP. It is amazing for gap closing, amazing for trying to keep pressure on your opponent. But I do not see this enchant being too good in PvE, but I definitely do see this enchant being amazing for PvP. I'm only giving this enchant an A only because it lacks PvE capabilities. On to our next enchant, we have Solar. Okay, so this one, I've seen a video, multiple videos on this, and people call it trash. I ain't gonna lie, it low-key is kind of dog water, because it would have been way better if this enchant, instead of stealing ether, it would steal tempo. See, this enchant has a lot of potential, but they low-key sold us this one. It steals ether, but it should really steal tempo in my opinion, because if you're M1ing somebody, they get tempo, and if you take ether from them, they're just gonna regen it back because they have tempo. So it really doesn't matter, they're always ultimately gonna have ether. So I don't see stealing ether being a big thing, and it really doesn't have any other pros to this enchant. So overall, this enchant is getting a C because it still does something. It's an enchant, but it's actually kind of trash, I can't lie, it's really useless. On to our next enchant, we have Tears of Enchant. This enchant is kind of nice. Ultimately what it does is it has a chance of proccing bubbles on people, and the bubbles I've seen does a lot of damage. I'm gonna say it does 10 to 15% damage, which is really good for a proc. So I like this enchant a lot because it's very nice for PvP. The bubbles that it procs, it tracks onto the player, similar to the shadow orbs or whatever that mantra is. It tracks and follows the players and then explodes on them. This is perfect for applying pressure to your opponent, so I see this being a really good PvP enchant. So ultimately, I'm going to have to give Tears of Enchant an S because of its PvP and PvE capabilities. Okay, on to our next enchant, we have StormBreaker. So I kind of like this enchant. Basically what it does is its critical is exchanged for kind of a grand javelin-ish. So I kind of like this enchant. Another thing that is really amazing about StormBreaker is this R is throwable. So another thing about this enchant, it is amazing for the chaser boss. One of my friends, Fabian, he uses this enchant very well. He uses the R of the enchant to get the blood in certain places that you cannot get normally by climbing up. This enchant is also really good for PvP. It applies more pressure to your opponent because they're worrying about something being thrown at them, and maybe a mantra follow-up. So overall, I give this enchant an high A, maybe low S. So our last enchant we have is Curse of the Unbidden. Basically what this enchant does is it swaps out the R for an ability. Once hitting it, it'll spawn magic circles that will basically ultimately reduce the damage that you're taking, and it also steals ether per M1. So this enchant, I see this enchant being very nice for PvP, not too much PvE, but you could most likely use the R, maybe use a tank build of the Curse of Unbidden. You can just spam R on mobs and stuff, but the ether aspect of it for PvE isn't going to be really too big. I feel like ether stealing with these enchants don't really mean a lot because of tempo. Tempo is really good. You literally just get your ether back always. So ultimately, I give this enchant an A because I feel that the R could be really useful for PvP and PvE, and the little ether stealing is a good pro. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you guys subscribe, like. Let's try to get 50 likes on this video. Let me know where your list would be in the comments below. And yeah, it's been a lesson.